Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me for this month's webinar on contract management. My name is Laura Froyum. I'm the sales director here at Cities Digital, or CDI, and today's webinar will be recorded and available for viewing on our YouTube channel after the presentation. And throughout, if you've got any questions, don't hesitate to ask them in the questions tab, and all of those will be addressed at the end of my presentation. So for anyone who has attended any of my presentations in the past, this contract management one is pretty similar to one that I had done quite a few months back. However, we'll be incorporating an exciting new demo process at the end that I can't wait to show you. So first we'll go through the contract stages, types, tools for streamlining your process, tips and tricks, and then take a look at that live demo. Through this demo, we'll be looking at the contract kickoff process as well as the review process where we can incorporate redlining, digital signatures, and archival. So this kind of differs from what we had in the past, where it was mainly just after the contract had been reviewed, it went out for signature and then archived. So we've got a lot more incorporated this time, and it's pretty exciting. So if we look at the standard stages of contract management, we'll note that most contract processes or review processes are very similar. So here we've got the contract requests. So that's the initial, I want to engage with a vendor for a specific something. Then we identify the template that we need to use. We review, we go back and forth internally, maybe we go back and forth with a vendor. From there, once we've got the contract finalized, we can send it out for electronic signatures, and then we can bring it back into the system, renew, and set up renewal processes that are all automated within Laserfiche. And then if you have to abide by records management and records retention schedules, we can incorporate that in as well. So I imagine a lot of you, again, on the line are understand the benefits that Laserfiche offers. With the workflow, you not only have the ability to save time, reduce tasks, you can also track responses and changes between any processes that you have in the organization. You can also send out notifications to multiple people within the company at the same time so that whatever information you've got getting pushed out gets handed back in a timely manner. And again, setting up those automatic reports so that team members get notified in advance of a contract being expired so that they can take action and renew steps as needed. So here's just a few contract examples. Again, purchasing contracts, non-compete contracts, sale of goods and services. That's what we're going to be taking a look at today. But also consulting services, vendor onboarding, they all, again, follow the same type of process, any approval that you've got. I did include a few other approval examples. I think the process that we're going to go over today would be perfect for city council agendas and minutes and that packet planning. Funding and budgeting requests, travel and events requests, all of those can follow some type of format of what I'm going to show you today. So the tools that you need for success in today's presentation would be Laserfiche Forms, specifically Laserfiche Forms Professional. So Forms Professional is going to allow us to push and pull information from databases or other applications to populate information. Also, it will allow us to do some advanced reporting. So Forms Professional would be a tool needed for this process, as well as workflow. So again, if you are on a Laserfiche Avante or a Laserfiche Rio platform or a Laserfiche Cloud platform or a Laserfiche subscription platform, chances are you've got some version of all of these components already. And so it's just a matter of engaging with our team to help you build the process and the flow. So workflow, again, is going to connect with those databases with us. It's going to fill out a editable Word document for us and allow us to collect signatures with DocuSign. You can also leverage the Laserfiche mobile app for contract management. So let's say you're on the go, you've got a contract that you need to review, you can do that right there on your phone as long as you've got the mobile app installed. And as a reminder too, for any of those aforementioned platforms, as long as you've got web access, you should also have access to install Laserfiche mobile. And if you're not sure or you're interested in getting it, please reach out to our team. Installing Laserfiche mobile would be no additional cost, assuming you've got the licenses. And then again, for today's contract demo, we are going to be leveraging DocuSign, specifically the Cities Digital or CDI DocuSign integration. This is going to allow us, once the contract has been reviewed by all necessary parties, workflow will grab it, push it to DocuSign, send it to the signers automatically, and then pull the contract back into the system. Some of the neat stuff that we have worked out with the demo today is we've added a DocuSign tab into web access, which keeps us updated as the document flows from signer to signer, which I will show. So now we're going to dive in. Now that you know the tools that you've got need to have for the process, we're just going to look at some other tips and tricks. And I really like to just incorporate tips and tricks so that you know, I guess, some of the features that are not as widely used, but can also be super helpful. So with every process in Laserfiche, again, we leverage metadata really heavily. So metadata is just these fields. You've probably seen some version of this within your system or floating about on the internet. But again, metadata is just additional information that helps us identify a document and makes things more easily searchable. And then we can push and pull metadata from other applications to pre-fill this and auto-route your documents. So with that metadata, based on the information collected in that Laserfiche template with the metadata, we can color code folders for easy recognition by staff. This again is something that I think is very easily forgotten in the system, but being able to add colors to your folders so you know what's active, you know who's assigned to what, makes it really easy to identify if you navigate through the folder structure. We can also incorporate web link. So as if part of your contract process requires or requires you to make the document available to an outside representative who doesn't have access to your Laserfiche system, you can incorporate Laserfiche web link or the public portal to provide them read-only access to that document. So it can either be that document specifically, or it can be to certain folders within your Laserfiche. And again, that's just read-only access. Incorporating forms, I definitely think is a must. You can do the same actions within Laserfiche forms with the Laserfiche metadata. However, forms gives us a lot more of a user-friendly interface. So it's a lot easier to come in here and type in the contract name versus look at that template and try and make sense of what's there, because you can incorporate more language to describe what needs to happen with each field if needed as part of your process. So we do recommend leveraging forms whenever you're collecting information of any type. You can also add or leverage workflow to add active to document names automatically. So as, again, your contract is progressing through the system, workflow can automatically append and update the name based on the stage of the workflow that it's at. So we've seen a lot of workflows add the word active to the contract so that, again, when you're navigating through the folder, you can easily see what's active, what's still pending, if you've got everything stored in the same folder. With this, you can set up token calculations. So we use token calculations to set reminder dates. So this is really great. So once you've got that approved contract, it's been automatically filed in your system. Based on the contract expiration date, Laserfiche again can calculate, maybe a reminder 90 days in advance to let accounting or procurement know that this contract is expiring, you need to take action, so that we're not, again, scrambling at the end. So you can leverage the system again to route from person to person. This can also be dynamic. So based on the type of contract that you're submitting, or the department, or the manager of that particular department, Laserfiche can identify and appropriately route that document from person to person pretty easily. And you can use conditional parallels to have multiple people reviewing the document at the same time. So again, we talked about date calculations a little while ago, but not only can you auto-calculate that reminder date, but you can also calculate the expiration dates. So if you come in, the contract starts on, January 1st and it's got a 1-year term, it can automatically calculate the expiration date on that as well. So this is just a little snippet on how that looks. So adjustment, subtract 3 months, and that's how you get your review date prior to expiration. Another thing too, if you have used forms, you can create landing pages, which makes it easier for your team members to select the form that they want to submit. So this is just an example of a simple landing page. If you connected with our team and seen one of our other internal demos, we've got a dashboard that we use internally, which I highly recommend, which allows you to do a lot more customization with a landing page so that you have all of the information you need at your fingertips. So now we are set up with the tools that we need. Let's take a look at that live demo. So here, I've got my demo machine pulled up, and I'm going to do this demo today with the web access or web client of Laserfiche. It is all still accessible to you in the desktop, but some of these cool panes that I'm going to show you are not available in the desktop application. So if you're still leveraging the desktop application, I would recommend, as long as you've got web access, that you start thinking about migrating to it. Laserfiche, again, is doing a web-first approach to their development, so all customizations and changes go to the web first, and then they roll out to the desktop. And certain things right now just aren't available in the desktop that are in the same way that are available in the web client. So let's take a look. Here I am just navigating into my procurement folder structure. I've got my contracts in process folder. So this is where, when I submit my form, the contract is going to go initially. So I'm going to submit a new form. That's going to be the contract in process. From there, it's going to go through a series of approvals. Once it's been signed off on, it's going to automatically move into our active contracts folder. And then from there, once they have reached their contract expiration, they will automatically move into inactive contracts. So the workflow, based on all of the metadata, will move it from folder to folder for us automatically. So in this particular scenario, I'm not leveraging folder colors. I am just leveraging workflow in the back end to move it to the appropriate location for me. So now I'm going to jump into forms. This is what the contracts forms designer looks like. So we're going to submit the form. Again, it's going to kick off a workflow, which is going to create that folder structure for us. It's going to go through a series of reviews, and then it's going to update the contract, and then again another review process, and then push it to Laserfiche so that ultimately workflow can grab it, push it out to DocuSign, and archive everything for us. So this is my forms task box. As you can see, I do have a couple of documents for review here in my task box, but I'm going to go ahead and just submit a new form. So if I go to start process, I can go and start a new form, or again, you can create a landing page, or you can just favorite the URL to the form submission directly to your Google or Internet Explorer. So you've got easy access to submitting new contracts as needed. So here is my new contract request. So with this form, everything you see again is completely customizable. And if I go through, this employee information is automatically populated based on the user that I'm logged in as. So you can have any form dynamically capture who's registering it so that they don't have to fill out their name every time. So again, for expense reports, training requests, anything like that, it can pull their name automatically just to save them a couple steps. We also have the ability to switch departments. So which department is this for, position, title, all of that. Now I've got a few different contract types here, and these contract types can indicate what type of template is being used in the back end. So if I select professional services in the back end, that's going to pull one template type from us from our Laserfiche system in Word format that we've already had pre-created. If it's an HR employment document, those look a lot different than a professional services contract. So depending on the type of service contract we select, that dictates on the back end which template workflow we'll use to populate the rest of our process. So we're going to do a professional services contract. I'm going to do a Laserfiche workflow automation contract for our HR department. For the vendor of CDI, I'm going to have myself as the representation. I'm going to type in my own email. And this is for John Doe. So we're going to set our effective date as today with an expiration of the 31st. And I'll show you why. So here, again, this form is dynamic. And based on the selections that we're making in the form, this is going to allow us to automatically change the template that we're going to use for our contract. So again, we've got a standardized Word contract with just the basics. Based on the changes that you make and select in the Laserfiche form, you can add addendums to your contract really easily. So I'm going to demonstrate that by updating our insurance requirements. So instead of 500,000, we're going to do 500, or we're going to do 500 million. Workers' comp, do 150. I know these don't make any sense if you're in contracting at all, but we're going to go with it. Professional liability. So again, any of the information collected in this form is going to push into our standardized contract template for us. And we can choose to include these addendums or not. So we can also add and update supplemental files that we can include with our document or not. And I'm just going to go ahead and submit this. So now what's going to happen is this submission goes through and it's going to kick off a series of approvals, and it's also going to create that folder structure for that initial folder structure for us within Laserfiche. So I am going to be logged in the whole time as the same user. So even though it's, flashing before our eyes for the new approvals, essentially this could be routed to different users in the organization. They can get that email notification letting them know they've got something they need to take action on, or they can just log into their forms box, however you want to manage that internally. So it's gone to legal for initial approval. They can take a look at it. What's really exciting about this is just the contract. I mean, where's my template? You might be wondering that. Included and embedded right here in this Laserfiche form are quick links to the contract folder as well as the contract document. So if I want to take a look at what was submitted initially and a part of this contract, I can click that quick link and it will bring me directly to the folder structure right there in Laserfiche. If I go back to the form and I want to view document, I can go ahead and view the document as well. So this is going to open it up really easily for us in Word. And I can go ahead and I want to change this. The greatest team. I don't know. So once I make my changes, we'll add a couple of asterisks here. I'm just adding minor changes here just so we can take a look at what the redlining looks like within Laserfiche. So I'm going to go ahead and just save that. Next out of it. Updated title. As part of our workflow process, it automatically added document versioning to our Word contract document. So as this process goes through approval to approval, each time somebody changes something on the document, it updates the version for us in Laserfiche so that we can easily do a compare and contrast of versions between approvers. So if I go back here, I've finished my task. I'm going to go ahead and update it. And so now it's going to legal review. From there, they can do the same thing. They can go ahead and open the contract folder or the document. I'm just going to go ahead and approve it. And now we've got another legal review to take action on. I'm going to go back in and I'm going to change the document some more. The greatest team ever, CDI. We're just going to highlight that. I get real creative with my demos, I do. Lights. So that's pushing my updates back into Laserfiche for me automatically. I'm going to go back to my task here and approve it. So that was the, oh no, one last approval. So this is just headed back to the departmental manager to put their finishing touches on it, say okay. And once it goes through its final approval, it's going to automatically push all of those changes out to DocuSign for signature. So if I jump into my email, I received a document for signature. I'm just going to go through the process here. I do have to sign it twice as we do have multiple signers. And so if you're familiar with DocuSign, this should look, pretty much the same. They agree to use electronic signatures and then continue, and it just walks them through. So as we can see here, my highlights and my changes are all part of the submission that got routed to DocuSign for signature. I'm just going to hit start. I'm going to sign John Doe, adopt and sign. Finish. And then as part of my process, again, I do have two signers, so I get to go through that again. Again, if you're leveraging DocuSign, you do have the ability to have kind of a two-factor authentication with DocuSign. So if you were sending out maybe financial documents for signature or something like that, you can have that two-factor authentication where they type in a password to ensure that they are who they say they are when they're signing. So then I'm just going to go ahead and sign as CDI, adopt and sign, finish. So now I can close out of that, and I'm going to jump back into my repository. So if I take a look here, I'm going to refresh quick, and we'll probably see that document come in here, but we may have missed it. I should have popped over here during my demo, because what happens again, after you initially submit the form, it goes into this folder, Contracts in Process. And so within that folder, I would be able to see, any supplemental documents I included, the original form submission, and then our template for the contract that was created. So then we open that up. But if I look at the panes over here to the right, we can see that workflow automatically appended and applied all the fields. I'm able to, if I take a look at DocuSign, this is going to take a second to load, but we can see here this contract was sent out, and we are still waiting for one signer. So one of the really neat things about this process, and if you've got the DocuSign integration, is that we can add a new tab over here with your metadata information to let you easily see the status of their document and where it's at. So now, since our contract, since I didn't pop over here initially, I signed it already. If we go ahead and refresh our active contracts area, we should see a new contract within CDI for 2020 that we just created. So Laserfiche workflow automation created today at 1:18 Central Standard Time. If I go ahead and open it up, we've got our unsigned contract. We've got the original request. And again, metadata information was automatically applied to all of this. So if I click the details, I can see all of that. I can see the fields. If I view the Word document, I would have the ability to view the different versions associated as well. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you. I know not many people are super familiar with the versioning in Laserfiche. Some people are super great. If not, you can have version control turned on, as needed, or you can have it set up so that every time you bring a new document into the system, it's automatically applied. So you can set it up either way. So we can see here I've got 7 different versions. That includes the initial template, the initial review, all of the other reviews, and then the final that went through. So with that, if you click on the details pane, click on the versions, you can see all of the different versions. If I had put in any notes, like highlights, you could see that. So I want to compare version 5 to version 2. So if I select those checkboxes, I go into more, compare the versions. It just tells me what the metadata changes are, but then you can compare the actual changes and it will open it up in Laserfiche for you automatically. So before you go through the signing process, this is typically where you would compare the versions, but you'd be able to see what was changed and the red lines within the document pretty easily right there. Again, we can see that $500 million commercial general liability requirement is there with the minimal workers' compensation based on the submission that I had made in forms. So I'm going to X out of that. If I go back to the folder and take a look at the fields, again, throughout the process, we've got the effective date of 1/28 of 2020, the expiration date, which is what I had selected. I was going to update that as part of my process, but I did not. So if you update it in the Word document, we can figure it out how to update the metadata for you automatically. But then we leveraged workflow to set up a contract review date 60 days prior. So on 11/30 of 2019, which was a date in the past, I would have received an email letting me know that I had something that I needed to tend to. I've got this contract I need to renew or review. So that is the entire process. It includes some of the new features, which is the DocuSign piece. It includes the redlining and the versioning. If you want to be able to pass the document from one user to the next within Laserfiche, it does require a Laserfiche full user, since full users do allow you access to update, change, and collaborate on documents So if you do have a department that is interested in this, your legal department is interested in this, each person would need a full user license to incorporate a process like this. The demo that I had showed a few months back worked great for outside, if you're collaborating with outside team members, just because the back and forth, would be handled maybe via email. But then once you've got that completed contract, it comes back into the system, goes out through DocuSign, sign contract, goes back into Laserfiche, and so on. So that is all I had planned for today. So if there are any questions, I'll give it a few minutes for questions. Again, if you are interested in getting a process like this implemented on your system, or if you just want this one and you're a city's digital or CDI client, you can reach out to us and we can get you situated with it. But otherwise, I'm open for any questions now. Let me just open it so I can read it. I was having trouble with the audio. Is it recorded? Yes, this demo and webinar is and will be available. It's recorded. It will be available on our YouTube channel. And also, if you've registered, I believe you get an email notification afterwards, so you can review it at that time. When it opens for legal review, will it be in track changes? Can you track different versions before it's finalized easily? Yes. So I did show you the version tracking out of order, but essentially as it goes from person to person, you would be able to look at your contracts in process. Actually, all of these ones have been and gone through their final reviews, but if you look at it, you would be able to see the details and then what version it's on and who changed what, and then you can compare it at any point. So it doesn't have to complete the entire process. It just, at any point, as long as you've got version control on, you can reference it at that time. Hopefully that answered your question. Are you able to reassign the signers as an enacting manager? You can. So if you're filling out the form submission, you can have the ability to select who you want the signers to be. So yeah, you can definitely do that. And then another question, how does it work if two reviewers are reviewing the same document at the same time, or is it better to make it more linear? So Laserfiche does have the functionality as long as you're using the web browser or web access and you've got Office 365 and all of the other requirements installed, you can do simultaneous co-authoring on a Word document. It still tracks the changes person to person in the version control within Laserfiche, and so they can simultaneously co-author documents. You can set it up that way, or you can have it more linear. It kind of depends on what your process is. All right, so if there are no other questions, I appreciate everyone's time today. Please take a moment after the webinar is over to fill out the quick survey. Let us know what you're interested in seeing next, what you did or did not like about today's webinar. And your feedback is important and valuable to us, so please let us know. Otherwise, I appreciate your time and thank you so much. Oh, I got another question. Does it integrate with Teams in the workflow? Yes, if you've got Teams, you can definitely set it up that way. Within Forms, you've got Teams, so it would just be a team task instead, where you could go into the Forms inbox and then assign it to yourself instead. So I don't have any team tasks, but if I did, it would come in as a team task and then you could assign it to yourself and then take action on it. And then can you go over which types of licenses are needed for this? So for this exact process that we have set up, you would need a Laserfiche system, obviously. You would need Laserfiche Forms Professional. You would need Laserfiche Workflow. You would need the DocuSign integration from CDI, as well as a DocuSign account. And then likely just some professional services from our team to help you get it configured and installed to your specific needs. So just a Laserfiche system, it typically doesn't matter what platform you're on as long as you've got Forms Professional and Workflow. And then DocuSign and the DocuSign integration. Then from here, if anybody has any other questions, definitely please reach out to sales@cdi.support or your account manager, and we can definitely help you out from there. I do have one last question. Does everyone need Forms Professional, or is it just the person setting it up? So that's a great question. Forms Professional is actually a user add-on. So depending on, again, on the system that you've got, or the platform of Laserfiche that you have, it's a user add-on. So the Forms Professional is a percentage to all add-on to all of your users. So all of them would need it. You'd have to add it to the system, not just person to person. It's not licensed in that way. All right. Any other questions from here? Please don't hesitate to reach out. We are here to help and appreciate you. Thank you.